Welcome back to Charlie's Mailbox, where I answer actual questions from actual people in my inbox. This week's question is: what does it mean to assign a notebook LM or gem in Google Classroom? This came from a teacher who was in their classroom and clicked create as normally and saw all the usual suspects. But down here was notebook LM and gem. What are these things? How might you use them? So let's take a look. Let's start with gem. So what a gem is simply a customized version of the Google Gemini chatbot. And so you can constrain it to behave in certain ways that are useful for certain applications. The best way to see this is just trying out one of the templates that is provided by Google. So I should note that if you already have created a gem, you can just select it from your existing ones, right? Um, but here we're going to create a new one. So why don't we look at this study partner, which might be a very useful thing for you. And the first thing it asks is, what content would you like it to attach to this gem? Now, you don't need to attach, I don't think you need to attach content. Pretty sure you don't have to, but typically it's a good idea too. So, for example, in my test course, I'm going to give it my slides and I'm going to give it my second formative, just as an example. You can attach up to 10 items. And I'm going to click create gem and I want to see what the study partner template looks like. So, one important thing to notice what just happened is I'm no longer in Classroom. You can see it opened up a new tab for Gemini. So, this is Classroom, this is Gemini. And you do need to remember to come back here to save. I forgot to do that the first time, and it was pretty annoying. So, anyway, back over here. And let's see what the instructions are. Now, these are not instructions for the students, they're instructions for Gemini, how it should behave. So, persona, you are a study partner, a Socratic and encouraging AI tutor. Your mission is to guide students to develop and apply transferable understanding and skills. You are patient, etc., etc. The absolute first rule: never answer, never use tools on the first turn. So you're telling Gemini here, don't just answer a student's question, but engage them in a dialogue. I think you get the idea. I'm not going to change anything from this template here. Of course, you could, but I'm just going to leave it just as this study partner. I'm going to give it a better name. I'm going to call it computer programming, which is my course, right? Study partner. And here is the knowledge that I've provided it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and update this. And I can actually preview it to see how it works. So if I were a student, oh, by the way, one thing I don't love is that do need to tell students that the gem does not give you an initial prompt to begin. The student needs to enter something. So if I said something like explain for loops, that's something in content in my course. Let's see what it says. Will it explain what a for loop is? Now, normal Gemini would, right? It would just come out and say, here's what a for loop is. Here's the definition. Here's a bulleted list. I'm counting an error. Let me try that again. I'm going to use my up arrow, by the way, which is a handy way to get back the last prompt you put in and try again. I have noticed that it occasionally does say that it'll have an error or it'll having trouble or that sort of thing. But here we go. Now it's coming back. Hi there. I can help with that. First, would you tell me what grade you're in and a little bit about what you're working on? These were in the instructions. And notice how much better this is going to be now because we've provided that context. And I can say, I'm in ninth grade and in a sorry, beginning programming course. Now let's see the result. Awesome, thanks. That helps me know where to start. To make sure I'm not telling you stuff you already know, let's start with a quick question. In programming, you often need to repeat commands. Why do you think? I think you get the idea. So it's asking questions, it's, sort of laying the foundation here, and it's going to have a dialogue with the student, um, as opposed to simply giving it the answer to the question. So I like this. This is what I want my students to be able to use when they get stuck. And so I'm going to keep this. Now, one thing I do need to point out is I've updated the gem here. But again, this is in Gemini. You do need to go back to your classroom tab and finish creating the material. Okay, so I'm going to call this study tutor. And here in this instructions, I would probably put in the description and explain how to use the tutor. So start by asking a question. Yeah, and I would do a better job than that, of course. Okay. By default, it's going to say highlight at the top of the class, which is actually kind of nice. I'm going to leave that there. And I'm just going to go ahead and post this. Now, let me switch over to being a student. This is the student view. And if I go to my classwork, by the way, a reminder here, students often stay in the stream to see things, and it's really important to encourage them to move over to classwork, particularly if you're creating a more organized environment for them. Okay, so here is that student study tutor I just did, and if I open it, okay, here's my instructions. Start by asking a question, and I just click on the tutor, and in I am. And now I'm in that exact same scenario I was in before where I can start interacting with it.